This is Alina Vandenberghe, co-CEO and co-founder at Chili Piper, and I have Ding here with me from saleswrap.io, and we're going to talk about the fact that it's a lot easier to stand out when your sales tactics are creative, and music is an underutilized means of communication to pattern interrupt our buyers, to get their attention. Very excited to have Ding with me today.
So excited to be here.
It's an interesting journey for me because I've only been content creator for 3 months now. And I noticed that it's an art between being a good discovery person, right?
For sure.
And then creating a narrative that has a strong story behind it. And that's another skill set that I've never practiced the muscle with. And then, as you say, even if you might create something of value, are there enough people who might find that value useful enough in their day-to-day job? Or is it just like another person like you who finds it valuable and it's just one, you know?
Yeah.
You never know. When did you start your YouTube channel?
So I have been on YouTube for around 14 years at this point. I started my first YouTube channel in 2009 when I was around 13 years old. I think of myself as very lucky to have come up around that time when the flip cameras were coming out, when mirrorless DSLR cameras were becoming more popular on the consumer and prosumer side of the market. So having that and seeing a lot of folks that were from an amateur background beginning to post videos online, that was a big catalyst for me having the self-confidence to say, I don't need to go out and get some credentials. Let me try and experiment and just do.
And when did you start TikTok?
I got onto TikTok a bit late. So TikTok, I hopped on early 2021.
It's hard to target in TikTok. Your audience is obviously sales leaders who might look at you as an asset in their creative process. How do you find your VP of sales as VP of sales on TikTok?
For sure. So this is a very interesting time on TikTok because where we see platforms like LinkedIn, there's an established user relationship from the persona of, let's say, a sales leader. Mm-hmm. It's understood that sales leaders, as part of their role, might be on LinkedIn, right? Whether that be hiring for their teams, prospecting and branding to get to their number. Right? There's some business-related reason that they are on LinkedIn. The challenge at TikTok right now is there hasn't been a clearly defined reason for a lot of senior leaders to be on TikTok. Mm-hmm. There is a strong leading indicator that this is the dominant platform now. If we look at the data analytics, right, TikTok search traffic is surpassing Google. The amount of views far eclipses YouTube. So from a sheer number standpoint, it makes sense that we want to get in on the battlegrounds and claim as much territory in a land grab, right? But the challenge is, especially on the B2B side, where we have growth goals that we want to hit. We have immediate ROI. You want to demonstrate that there is some type of ROI when you go out to any of these channels. And right now, because there hasn't been a proliferation of these sales leaders on the platform, I think it might be misguided to say, hey, we are on TikTok because the sales leaders of today are on there as heavily as they might be on LinkedIn. But I think the philosophy behind this is that if we know this platform is taking over, it's one of the largest, and everyone's scrolling on there to look at their children's dance videos or learn something about their own hobbies and interests because of the way the algorithm is, then it might stand to reason that eventually, if you can claim the credibility and thought leadership of sales on that platform, then one day when there is a critical mass of the leadership or the ICP that you're trying to target, then that's when it'll pay off. So we're playing TikTok like a long-term
game. Yeah, long-term game. Unless the government shuts it down and then there's nothing.
It's funny because coming from my parents, they came from China. I was born in the U.S., but I've traveled frequently, over to that side of the world. And, as we all know, there are certain dangers when it comes to to free enough free internets, and with the TikTok parent company, ByteDance, has all of the infrastructure and technology to be able to do food delivery, live shopping, e-commerce shopping, and fulfillment on that end. And we just saw this month that TikTok are investing heavily in fulfillment centers in the West. So there's definitely some interesting stuff going on around that platform.
It's interesting because both of us have some communist regime behind us.
For sure.
I come from Romania and I live the communist times, and your parents through their China experience. And what it does to, at least to people like me, is that it makes you understand that you cannot put all your eggs in one basket.
Yes.
Because everything is very unpredictable. And you don't know if like TikTok is going to be shut down, and you don't know where things are going to be at. So you need to, at any point in time, make sure that all the channels are being productive, right?
Absolutely. And I think Alina might agree with me on this. The beauty of being a creator is learning how to be a creator and a storyteller and add value. And I think that is something that's universal across all platforms. If you can master the art of storytelling, of engaging with your community and delivering value to your audience, I think that's something that can be replicated everywhere.
It's not the channel, it's the creator behind it. And obviously all these platforms have the challenge of attracting talent to create amazing content. In the sales space, the content creation as a way to interrupt patterns in our buyers. So buyers get bombarded by a million things, by ads, by TikTok, by Instagram, by LinkedIn, by emails. And you can only get their attention if, one, it's something that they don't expect, and second, if it's a value that they can start activating right now, where they can really have some things that they can see themselves implementing. How do you come up with stuff like that? Where do you find creativity?
So this is the science part, is the way I'm able to come up with all the rhymes that are very specific to a unique business and their use cases, and to make it relevant to their personas of their buyers, is I spend a lot of time learning about the product. I spend a lot of time speaking with the sales team, right? Really getting into the heart of the why behind the company and the brand. So I can tap into that energy. And I always say there's the 80-20 rule. And most people think that when it comes to creating music or creating entertainment-based content in this space, 80% is the art, is the creator. But in reality, 80% is the discovery. Because there's no way you can travel far if you're pointed in the wrong direction. So, and that's my fundamental philosophy for how I create art.
I think that people undermine the value of music in B2B and in like sales in general. We actually, do you know we have a song, like a theme song,
I do,
Chili Piper song?
The EDM, Chili Piper. I love it, it's so good.
And we had an amazing artist from France who stayed at our home, and we asked him for a favor to do a song for us. And from them, it became, we had various people mixing it. We have the Moroccan version, we have the orchestra version.
Yes, the remixes are so good. I'm a huge fan.
We even did an orchestra version, and we played it in a special place in Paris where we had people, inmates, coming to listen to it. They came out of prison and they listened to the orchestra playing music. Obviously, it wasn't just our song, there were some other things in there. And, you know, it's the ripple effects. Like you start thinking about music as a healing means, as a bringing people together, as a way to get people to resonate and sing to your message. It does so many beautiful things, but people don't pay attention to it that much in marketing and in sales. Why do you think that is?
The reason that people don't pay attention to it on the marketing side, especially in the B2B space, is that there is no access and there's no technical knowledge on how to effectively leverage music in the marketing. Right? And what I mean by that is music is powerful because it's a strong sensory experience. Right? And typically in marketing and sales, We have the human voice. Perhaps we might have video, some talking heads or some vlog style content. And then you also have visuals. So what infographic can you send? Is this a white paper or ebook download or maybe a cold email? And music adds a fourth dimension to this. And it's the realms of melody and rhythm. And this is what creates an additional energy on top of, let's say, just the pure human voice or a pure audio, right? If I'm leaving a voicemail and I'm singing, then it's gonna be a lot more memorable than, hey, this is Ding, I'm giving you a call from salesrap.io, yada, 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 right? I'm like, yo, it's Ding, make your telephone ring.
That's very funny. I wonder if there's just skepticism from founders and CMO to take a bet because people are comfortable with doing the things they were doing it. And whenever you take a big bet, like introducing music in your marketing, you might be criticized for it whenever there's some new thing introduced. So I think there's fear. I actually think there's fear around
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's with anything that isn't a sure bet. And especially, I think, in the tech space, is because there are often, goals that everyone really wants to hit. So oftentimes, I think the smart thing to do is, to focus a bulk of the efforts on proven methodologies and strategies. But I think that folks are selling themselves short if they're not doing some type of experimentation, because you're just leaving additional growth on the table.
I completely agree. Music has done wonders for Chili Piper, and I hope other companies follow suit. Not because, I'm competitive and I don't want them to catch up with us, but I literally think music can bring a lot more beauty out in the world, and it's a shame not to.
Absolutely.
And I can see the struggle for many companies out there who want all these sales leaders who need to make their quota and they need to stand out and they have to address the hesitancy. Any other thing that you've learned this year that you think you wished you know a year ago?
The concept of, we're getting pretty deep in the weeds of like what I do specifically. So with ABM, account-based marketing, leveraging music, something that I work on a lot. One thing that I've learned over this past year with a lot of client projects is that you need a top-down and a bottom-up approach to ABM. I think we're seeing, especially with the proliferation of gifting platforms and other third-party services that make it easy to do some type of send or activation, it can be very easy and automated to say, hey, let's focus on leadership, let's do XXX initiative. And what happens there is you might ignore the power of the internal influencers that might not be executive level stakeholders, but have a strong operational ownership, like in whatever initiative that we're trying to sell. So when I co-sell with some of my ABM partners, now what we're doing is we're using a top-down and bottoms up approach. So let's say we have an account, we know there's 4 key decision makers on that potential deal. What we'll do is reference, like in the song, music video, call out the folks that we want to get the attention of, personalize the content towards them, and let them hear their own name, in it with a human voice. How to win friends, influence people, like big tip from there. But at the same time, use some ad libs and name drop folks that might be below the power line. And then what we do is we leverage those folks below the power line as a distribution channel to take that asset video, prospecting video that we create, and use them as the distribution in their prospect organization's internal communication system, and then achieve the concept of what I call internal virality. So that's the biggest learning that I've had this year.
That's an important one, because you have to influence things from all possible angles, right?
Because the thing is, back when I was in AE, it was, this is a couple years ago, and the focus was always, get to power, get to power, get to power. And I think sometimes that can cause a myopia where we're all humans. Any company that we work in or work with, we're working with other humans. And I think if we can remember that, then it's going to inform a lot of decisions to be more effective.
People sell to people, people buy from people, and sometimes we forget to bring the humanity in us.
Yeah, that's why I love music. It's the most human thing.
Sorry to put you on the spot, but do you remember the lyrics that you wrote for Chili Piper?
Let's see. Let's
You have them somewhere in the notes?
I always have them in the notes. Let's see. There we go. So, tell me how you ensure that all of your meetings happen. Chili Piper scheduling software got B2B advancing. Tap in, quit napping, imagine. Double your conversion rates, increase customer satisfaction. You run the risk of losing deals if there's a standoff between the AEs and SDRs. How's your handoff? We take your inbound leads, let them book instantly, because when they wait, you lose 70% of peeps.
That's so cool.